been sitting here in my truck trying to go over the story or this life event in my mind and try and figure out how I'm going to relay what has happened. And I've been doing this. It's really just left me speechless. When it happened, as it kind of like transpired, I was speechless. When I called to tell my wife what had happened, speechless. But let's like set the story up a little bit here and go back a few months ago. So I went by my bank, and the wife was with me. We went by the bank, and I took out some money. So I was in the passenger seat. The wife was driving. We pull up to the window, and the teller was like, "Hey, how you doing? What can I do for you today?" And I was like, "I just need to get some money out of my account." And she was like, "Okay, how much?" Told her how much, and she's like, "No problem, 1 second." And then she handed me the money a couple of moments later. Told me to have a great day, and she said, "Hey, Mr. Collins, how you doing?" You know, I mean, she greeted me, right? She knew who I was. And I'm like over there smiling and everything, thinking in my head, my bank lady, my teller is so friendly to me. She always greets me, you know. Well, get the money, and we drive out from the little window area, you know, and my wife looks at me and she was like, "What was that?" I said, "What do you mean, what was that?" She said, "You just got that money out of your account, but they didn't ask you for any kind of identification. You didn't have to give them a card. You didn't have to tell them your account number." She said, "They just gave you your money." I said, "Yeah." She's like, "That's not good." And I'm like, "You're overthinking this. These ladies, or this lady's just friendly. She knows me." And in my mind, I'm like, I come by here often enough to where she knows who I am, kind of thing. But in reality, I never go by this bank. It had been probably 2 months since I'd been there this last time, and even longer before that. So I rarely go by this bank. And my wife is like this big professional, you know, she works in the corporate world. She's just like top tier professional when it comes to this stuff. So this like triggered her, and she's like, "Something's going on right here." And I was like, "There's nothing going on." I said, "They're on the up and up," all that good stuff. So fast forward to this morning, I go, and again, I live a crazy life. I'm unorganized. I needed to go put a check in the bank. There is a spot where I put in some cash. So I needed to go put a check in the bank, and I needed to go put some cash in the bank. So there's a spot where I put stuff whenever I come into our home. There's just a spot. Now my wife, if she was watching this, she would be saying to herself, "No, that's not true. He puts stuff everywhere." Not true. I don't put stuff everywhere. There's a spot, and that's all that we'll talk about there. But anyway, there's a spot where my stuff goes in the home. It may be in a pile, but there's a spot. So anyway, I needed to put cash and check in the bank. I go and I get the cash. I go and I grab a check. I go to the bank. Same friendly lady. "Hey, Mr. Collins, how are you doing today? What can I do for you?" "Hey, how you doing? No problem. Just need to put this stuff in my account." "Awesome. No problem, Mr. Collins." Hand her the money. Hand her the check. She gives me a receipt for my deposit, and I drive off. I glance at the receipt as soon as I leave the window, and I'm like, check is supposed to be X amount of money, $175 more. I'm pretty sure that check is supposed to be $175 more than what it's showing on this receipt. And this is how bad I hate conflict, and I hate inconvenience, and just, I'm a weird person. So it takes me about 10 minutes before I decide I need to go back and see what this discrepancy is about. It took me 10 minutes to decide if I wanted to go see where I lost $175. Anyway, I was thinking in my head, you know, the first thing I thought, I was like, all right, I made a mistake. I didn't look at the check right. The customer just wrote me $300 instead of, well, I wasn't going to tell you how much it was, but the customer wrote me X amount of check, and it's supposed to be this, but the customer obviously just made a mistake, and you know what, I'm not going to fuss about it. It is what it is. That's what went through my head, and I was going to be fine with it. But thankfully, for the next 10 minutes, it just kind of kept going. I was like, I know that check was for this amount, and what she told me was not right. So I turned around and I went back through the drive-through window, and she was like, hey, Mr. Collins, how you doing? And I said, how much was that check that I gave you? And she said, it was such and such. And I was like, that is not right. And I'm thinking this in my head. I said, that is not right. And then I was like, are you sure? And she was like, yes, sir. I said, the check that I just got, I said, who is it signed by? And this lady pulls out my cash and the check that I'd given her 10 minutes ago to deposit, and she goes through the cash and she finds my check, and she puts the check in the little drawer thing. It slides out. I look at it, and I have given her the wrong check, a check that had already been deposited, which was a big screw up. Pretty much, I'm confessing to fraud here on YouTube. So I explained to her, I was like, no, this is the wrong check. I said, this has to be canceled. This check has already been deposited. I grabbed the wrong check. And she was like, okay, no problem. And she does something in the bank, you know, marks out the check, hands me back the check, hands me another receipt. And this receipt is substantially lower, or okay, so it has the amount. She gives me the new amount, which is an X amount. So I go back home, I find the correct check, and I bring it back. I give it to her. She deposits it, hands me a new receipt. So now I have two receipts showing me what how much I have in my account. One receipt, the first receipt, is what I had when I put the bad check in it, which was $175 less than what the good check was supposed to be. So I had the good receipt that showed the correct check amount, and I had the first receipt, which was the bad one, that had the bad check amount. The newest one with the bigger check showed less money, like a couple of $100 less money. Still, I did not think anything about it. I went off, left the bank, went to a school day thing with my wife and kids, and I told my wife about it, and she was like, Joey, that is messed up. Something's going on. You've got to go back to that bank and figure in person and figure out. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back when I'm done, and I'm going to figure out, I'm going to get to the bottom of this and figure out what's going on. So I go to the bank in person, walk inside, and her countenance now has completely changed. She is obviously annoyed that I'm annoyed, concerned, something. And she was like, "What's up now?" That's what she said. And I'm like, "I just have a question. Can you tell me the difference, or why these two receipts are different? Why this latest receipt is less when the right check that I just gave you was more than the original bad check?" She didn't say anything. She just looked at them, I was at the counter. She went back somewhere to her computer, and I stood there in front of the teller, in front of the teller, and I'm trying not to show too much of my customer's property here. Stood there at the counter waiting for her to return, and I was there for maybe 10 minutes, just standing there waiting. And she simply comes back and hands me another receipt, and she said, "I just made a mistake. Is this the right amount?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, that is." She said, "All right, have a nice day." I called Candace, and she was just like, my wife, I called my wife, and she was like, "Joey, these people are skimming your money, and you're not even catching it." I mean, I don't know what else to think besides that. I mean, she didn't give me any other explanation other than, "I made a mistake. Here's the right amount. It's now in your account." And that's it. And then I didn't catch this until, because I'm still in shock that all this is happening. She kept the two. She gave me my new receipt with my new amount, but she kept the two other receipts that she'd given me previously. So pretty much I suck with accounting and numbers, and yeah, I think I've been getting scammed. No wonder they knew my name. Every time I came up to the window, I was probably paying for her nails to get done. Probably. I don't know. Y'all tell me. I feel like a pretty big dummy that it's went on like this, and I haven't, no red flag or anything. I thought they were just being nice to me. Oh my goodness. So perhaps I should have listened to the wife a few months ago, and done something about it then. The really crazy thing is that last year I went to get money out of this account when I really needed it. This was at the same time where I currently had no job. A tree had just fell on our house, and we couldn't live in our home from August until December. And another tree had fallen on all of my equipment except my tractor, destroying pretty much the business. So all these things happened at the same time. And when I went to go get money out of this bank when I needed it most, there was supposed to be several $1,000s in there. I walked in, or I was at the window, and I was like, "I need to check on my balance, please." And they told me it was negative $600. Negative $600. So I went inside that day to figure out what was going on, and they showed me on paper, they showed me receipts. I went back to the main office talking to the main lady or something, and they showed me where several purchases had been made in California or something like that, and had pretty much emptied this bank account, and I never saw it, but pretty much emptied the bank account, and so I had to start a fraud claim and all that, and I eventually got all that money back. But it's kind of weird that it's at the same bank. I don't know. What do y'all think? You think they've been stealing money from me? I'm kind of leaning that way. But anyway, I may cut this video off here. It's already went on for 16 minutes. I'm pulling up to the beaver job that we're doing. Man, speechless. What do you do?